is going on, family? How is everybody doing today? I hope you are having a wonderful day. I hope you have your libations. I hope you're ready to have a conversation. But as usual, fam, get in here and hit that like button for me if you can. If you can, please just get in here and hit the like button for me. I would appreciate it. Just hit that button for me. It costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to take a moment to hit the like button. That's all it is. Also, fam, please remember on the 21st of this month, is fast approaching, we're going to discuss American slavery, American freedom. I did not know how long we was going to learn about tobacco and farming and grazing, and it was a lot. Anyway, please, fam, thank you. 10 minutes with Big Elvis. Fam, we're going to get into it, but please also share this. Please also remember that inside the sanctuary, we have sold out tickets for the conference, which is the 4th and the 5th. You can get tickets still, but you will be in the overflow room as opposed to the inner sanctuary for the ADOS inaugural conference that I just put up. Please also remember to go to ADOS101.com. For people who are like, well, what is this whole thing about? I don't understand. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't get it. Like, please just, so that you don't have to deal with a whole lot of stuff that you really shouldn't have to deal with. Please, you can send people to that website and they can find out what they need to find out, and that'll be great. Thank you, Goon Squad. I appreciate it. Listen, you can also go to patreon.com/ycarnell to donate. You can go to donatebrown.com. You can also share. You can also become a monthly patron. You can do whatever you want to do. The world is your oyster. So listen, we have something we got to get down to today. We always have to have these conversations, and the conversations are necessary. But there's a lot of, part of what happens, I think, I have gone back over a lot of data in recent days. I have gone back over a lot of data for people who are new. For those of you who know, I think we broke 60,000. Hooray, fam. But in terms of subs, I've gone back over a lot of stuff, but what is happening now since the data is available, what I find that I'm spending more time in is actually like making the argument, right? Because we've laid these pillars down, and so now we have to like build up this foundation. And so Antonio and I had probably the best interview. We've had some good conversations with people who have wanted to talk to us about ADOS, but this has been probably one of the best and the most thorough. So this is Vox, the 2020 Democratic primary debate over reparations explained. Now, what I want to do in terms of how I'm framing this conversation today, I want to talk about reparations in terms of what it is. I want to talk about how it should be explained. And then I want to talk about in and outside of that, after you've done the explaining in terms of making your leaders understand why this is so necessary, when do you get to cancel them? Like, at what point do we get to say, you know what, we tried with you, and like that's not the direction that we're going anymore? Because part of the problem, and I'm going to get to this at the end, but part of the problem, what I keep hearing from a lot of people is, Yvette, you can't cancel people over this. I'll be damned. Like so we're going to get to that, but I want to go through because I want to show not only how to have the reparations conversation, but we have to talk about how not to have the conversation. So I'm going to talk about this through the lens of this article. So we're going to talk about just a few pillars that were put in place with this article for everybody to understand how to have the conversation. Then I'm going to show you somebody who had the conversation real bad and who really didn't do who did an awful job of having the conversation. So we're going to do both those things. All of those things in the context of this conversation, so that we understand what to do, what not to do, and we understand sometimes when it's best just to be quiet. It's okay, you don't always have to talk. Nobody has to talk all the time. You don't have to be on TV all the time. You don't have to be writing all the time just to get in the news cycle. It's okay not to do all of that. So let's just go to the first thing. How the idea of reparations enters the national conversation. And this is the context through which we have, Breaking Brown family, this is the context through we've been having the conversation anyway. Proponents of reparations say their argument is straightforward. America, through more than 200 years of slavery, built its wealth through the labor and very existence of the black men and women enslaved in chattel bondage. Very, very clear. Very, very clear. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Let's keep going. Reparations, its supporters argue, provide redress for both the original sin of slavery, now listen closely, the original sin of slavery and America's subsequent failure to address generations worth of accrued disadvantage in black communities. Beautifully written. Exactly what I said. Exactly, almost verbatim. Now, when you look at this, I want you to understand something. I want you to understand how some things are framed in a conservative way, and some things are framed in a way that makes sense. Some things are framed in a way that's very good for the argument, and some things are framed in a way that's very bad. When you talk about, well, you just want a cash payment, I think that's why Bernie kind of said what he said during the interview with Charlemagne the God. Well, do you just want a cash payment? Is that what you want? You just want money? Is that what you want? Because when you talk about a cash payment, it sounds like we're asking for welfare. It sounds like we're asking for a handout. So you have to talk about the complexity of what this thing is. And Dr. Sandy Darity, who has undergirded what we've been doing with the data and the understanding of work he's been doing for years, he had this to say. Stay with me. When it comes to what reparations plan would look like, Darity has argued that exclusively offering cash payments without addressing the underlying structures that have restricted black people from building the wealth would fail to correct the issue. Hence, now understand what he's saying. We're just not talking about a cash payment. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying hand us some money and just say we gave them reparations, we finished. That's not what we're saying. He said instead he has looked at what he calls a portfolio of reparations, a combination of individual payments and race-targeted proposals like vouchers for financial asset building, free medical insurance, a free college education for black people, or trust fund exclusively for black Americans. And why you say, well, let's go straight into the next one. In other words, slavery created a system where black people were forced to provide the labor that built the country. Let me start over. In other words, slavery created a system where black people were forced to provide the labor that built a country they were virtually excluded from participating in. The end of slavery did not produce an effort to fully incorporate this group into American life, but instead ushered in a century of exclusion through federal policy and exclusion that made black people an American underclass. An exclusion that made us an American underclass. And that is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with having been made a bottom caste in the country that we built. Perfect. So you have to discuss this multi-layered complex analysis, because we've also talked about it's not just about getting money. It's also about ownership and production. Because if you just give us money, then you know what happens. People just come into our communities and they say, I got something you might want for that money. I got a car. You're a consumer. See, if you don't own any means of production, you have no ownership. You cannot produce anything. You just become a consumer. So we're looking to be part of an ownership class in America, because what happened, we were taken off the table when we could have become and should have become part of the ownership class. We had our business people got burned out. We had our salon owners. We had our newspaper owners. Everything that happened because there was nobody and nothing protecting our rights. And people actually, we became a bottom class that you could kind of parasite off of. So you could go give us a garbage home loan on a dilapidated house, since we can't get FHA loans. And what that means is that predatory capital is the only capital that we have access to. When the only capital that you have access to is predatory capital, and there are no laws and restrictions governing that, what happens is that you lose your house. What happens is that you can't pass down that wealth. And so the expression, like I've said here, the expression of what we have suffered through is in that racial wealth gap. That's what we're looking at. That's what it is. That's not all that it is, but that's what it is. That's what it is. So listen, let me just show you one other thing. One of the things that I keep hearing, we just gonna go through a little bit step by step before I get to the argumentation. I keep hearing, well, almost kind of like, it's almost at this point, and it's understand, first of all, understand how early we are in the campaign season to be as bullied as we are being bullied. We are being bullied very early to support all of these other candidates, especially Bernie. And it is very early for us to be experiencing this level of bullying. But let me just, well, what about, see, we can get a UBI or we can get a federal jobs guarantee, Yvette. And what's wrong with that? You might not get nothing. You might not get nothing. You got to take something. Don't you want to take something? Don't you care? Listen, we have to be very honest when we have this conversation about what universal programs do versus what universal programs don't do. This is Darity again. The major financial objective of a reparations program is to close the racial wealth gap. The universal programs that some candidates have advanced won't close that, he said. There are 3 goals of a reparations program. The first is acknowledgement, the second is redress, and the third is closure. So far, candidates have largely focused on the first point. Just acknowledging, well, I understand you've had it bad in this country. You've really had a rough time of it, haven't you? You've had a rough time. I know my people were Scottish and they have a rough time too. Everybody have a rough time. You're not the only ones who had a rough go of it. You're not the only one who had a kind of hard way to go. Now, see, well, what advice does Darity have? Well, here you go. If political candidates discussing reparations are serious, they should move away from the language of emphasizing that the problem of the racial wealth gap can be solved by universal policy. They have to be willing to say that they endorse large-scale programs that would be specifically targeted at the historical injustice confronted black descendants of those enslaved in the United States. That's a very, 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 very specific argument. The only way it is not hard to understand is if you are deliberately trying to misunderstand it. That is the only way that you do not understand what is being said. And he put a number on it. This is how you have the conversation. Darity is currently working on a book about reparations in America, and he has argued the U.S. would need to spend several $1 trillion to begin its process of atonement for centuries, family, not decades, not months, not years, centuries of bondage, violence, and discrimination against Black Americans, estimated to be between 6.4 trillion to 14 trillion. Now, before anybody says, well, the U.S. spent $6 trillion on wars that killed 500,000 people. Listen, you got the money. And the thing is, it's not our fault that you haven't paid the money that you owe. See, the thing is, one of the things that we have to understand what we're talking about, if you want to have this argument right, if you want to have this debate right, we're not talking about something in the sense of like, what America needs to be a better country, what America needs to be Norway, Denmark, or a country with a stronger, a robust welfare. I agree with that. That's fine. What we're talking about, though, is a specific debt. You don't get to run off on a very specific debt. You don't get to run off on a specific debt because, you want to do other things with the money. See, the funniest thing is, when you look at Holocaust victims and their descendants, because reparations also went to people who were considered standing in the shoes. We talked about standing in the shoes. One of the things that you saw very specifically is that nobody said, listen, we're not going, Germany didn't say this. Germany didn't say, you're not going to get no money because what we're going to do, we're gonna hook you up. We're going to fix you up real good with some universal programs for everybody. All of the reparations, nobody said like, well, we're going to take care of that with stuff that just fixes we're going to give this to everybody and then you're going to get some of it too. It's going to overflow into you. Nobody makes that argument because it doesn't make sense. No other group that I can think of has been sort of browbeat and bullied in the position of trying to be forced to understand why somebody else might not want to pay, as opposed to the moral obligation to pay. You all see, understand that everything that's happening right now, the entire conversation that we're happening right now is backwards. The entire conversation is backwards. Well, what do you mean, Yvette? People should be telling us how they can pay. The argument that we should be having right now is, well, somebody says, well, we can only do 1 trillion in 3 years. And then somebody else says, well, no. We can do 2 trillion. And somebody says, well, it's got to be the first amount of money got to be, we got to have a 100-year plan, right? And like it starts on this scale and comes down to this scale. Like we start at 200, we start at like 200 billion or something, and we just like, the argument that we should be having is process. How much you have to pay right now. We should be having an argument about what this process looks like. It is inherently racist that we are having a conversation and that we're having a debate about whether or not you should pay it all. The fact that, well, I think you should get a Green New Deal. You should get that. No, you should, at the minimum, you should tell me what the reparations, you should have a reparations movement, at minimum, encased inside of whatever you're doing. You know, and part of the reason, I want you to understand something. Part of the reason that we really haven't been able to have the conversation that we need to have, and I'm going to bring it up in just 1 second, but there's a reason why we have not been able to have the conversation that we need to have. And it's not just the racism in society, and it's not just the racism of politicians. It's not just that. That's part of it. But it's not just that. Part of it is also people who are talking for us, who look like us, who don't know anything. We have a lot of people. We have a lot of people who are having conversations that they should not be having on our behalf. And let me just bring up one. We saw, what's his name? LZ Grant. Oh, child, what's the child's name? Granderson having this conversation as well. And CNN, let's have the conversation about reparations. That's what he said. Okay. I had a conversation. What does the conversation look like? Now, if you all want to, you can take a moment to actually pull this down, and we're gonna talk, and we can talk about what the conversation looks like. Sometimes I invite everyone to kind of pull this up or pull this down if you're on your smartphone, or if you're not, whatever. I invite you to do this because this is important. This is important. The kind of conversation that we're having is just as important as having the conversation. If you are having the conversation in the wrong way, if you are unable to have the conversation in a way that is meaningful for DOS, that is all a problem. So we're going to get into how he had this conversation, and how, you know, there are times when you know there's somebody that really shouldn't be having a conversation and they're having a conversation. So let's just go point by point. He starts off real good. Let me be clear. I believe in generational wealth accumulation by white people over centuries. To be systemic is directly connected to a significant number of obstacles impeding economic progress for African Americans and moral progress for the country. Oh, you real specific. You went and got to the, for example, the Social Security Act of 1935 excluded farmers and domestic workers. Oh, you still specific. You hitting it out the park. We looking good. We looking good, family. It looks like he's headed towards something, don't it? Looks like he's headed in the right direction. Now he's gonna fall off a cliff in a minute, but stay with me. And this cycle went on for decades. Another example of the long-term effects of systemic racism came via housing, where less than 2% of 120 billion worth of government-backed home loans were awarded to minorities. Stop saying minorities. Jesus, these people are lost. Because the appraisal system that was used identified integration communities as a high risk, integrated communities as a high risk. No, what black people were contagion of wealth. ADOS people were contagion of wealth. There were nominally hardly any immigrants during that time. It wasn't just minorities. Stop being lazy in terms of what you're doing and how you're doing it. Don't be lazy. If there's one, let me just come out of this for a second just to say this. If there is one lesson, if there is one takeaway, everybody, first of all, you have to show your teeth. You have to be full-throated. But you got to stop being lazy. How do you not know about the Immigration Act of 1965? How do you not know how many minorities were here? How do you not know that these were not Japanese, for the most part, cooks? These were not, for the most part, Mexican cooks. These were not people who were black people. ADOS people were made into a bottom caste, and we became a contagion for wealth. That is not minorities. Stop saying that. Stop being lazy. Go do the work. When you talk about ADOS people, go do the work and show what's the difference between what we went through and Japanese and Chinese and everybody. Some people got reparations, some people didn't. Some people became a contagion to blackness. Some minorities got to access whiteness. A whole lot of stuff happened. It wasn't just all one way, all one time. But if you just want to get on the top page of CNN, if you just want to be on the front page, and so you can get on TV and talk about reparations, or you want to see your byline, then we have a problem. Because that's not what we're here for. We're here for, listen, if you want to step your foot into this water, and you are an ADOS person, you are an advocate, and you are on TV, and you are on radio, or whatever you are, I need you to do your research before you do that. Don't you lazily, because people are talking about it this weekend, think you're going to do it. No. You go read whatever you need to read. And if that means you can't do it, then let somebody else do it, because you're just making a mess. So here's the next quote. But like so many, I am unclear. Of course you unclear, LZ. What could you be but unclear? I am unclear how to define, let me move this a little bit, a reparation solution. Now understand, if you have went and read some of Darity's work, if you have read some of the other work that's been done around reparations, you would not be unclear. You're not unclear because we have made the reparations conversation unclear. You are unclear because you have been lazy in terms of how you have engaged this subject matter. Laziness is not an excuse for not doing reparations. Everybody needs to do their work, and I'm not doing the work for. Listen, we have the Breaking Brown family, the ADOS family, Tone Talks family. We have been here. We have been here doing this work. We have a bunch of videos you can go and watch where we do the work, where we do the article. We do all of that. We have been doing all of that, and you can go look at it. But see, if you don't want to go look at it, you end up saying, well, I don't know what the process is either. So I don't know, and I just don't know. And so he says, but like so many, I am unclear of how to define a reparation solution. Is it a version of 40 acres and a mule? A promise made to freed men after the Civil War, but then broken by President Andrew Johnson? Is it a variation of Senator Cory Booker's plan to give all newborns of low-income households a $1,000 bond and add up to $2,000 annually until age 18? Is it a lump sum to anyone of African descent? Something else? God. Oh, it's such a pedestrian, rudimentary understanding of everything that we've said. You just got here. You just got here. One of the examples that I used before, when I was talking to a friend on the phone, and one of the examples I used was this. I read, you know, in my life, I've read a lot of Brian Greene. Brian Greene's a physicist. I'm not going to try to teach nobody physics. I enjoy reading it. He makes it understandable. It's very interesting as a subject matter for me. I'm not going to teach you physics. I'm not even going to teach you calculus. I'm not going to try to teach you that, because I understand that this person has been doing physics for a long time, and he has engaged it as a very serious way. I have engaged it on the edges as something I enjoy learning about. It's like art or something. I have engaged it over here. I have not dug my teeth into it to become an expert, or at least understand what experts understand. You don't even have to be an expert if you understand what the expert is communicating with you. But if you have not done that minimal amount of work, I do not need you coming on here making a mess of the reparations argument. You have to be. You have to be. You have to be. You have to be serious. I don't think we understand. You have to be a serious person. You have to be, because understand that he didn't say nothing in that argument. The only thing he said, well, I don't know. Just like you don't know, I don't know. And so when you don't know, you say stupid stuff. I'm not a Sanders supporter, but he asked a legitimate question. I'm not a Sanders fan, but I will say the senator asked a legitimate question. Here's something else that has to happen, family. You have to listen. A lot of people are misunderstanding this moment. This is not a moment. This is not a moment for prognostication. This is not a moment for you to sit on your armchair and pretend that you're on This Week with George Stephanopoulos. I've been watching that. I've been watching This Week since it was This Week with David Brinkley. You cannot prognosticate better than me. But this is not an era of trying to decide, well, what will Bernie do? What will Kamala do? What will what's the child's name? Little Castro. What will they do? What will Marianne Williamson do? This is not the moment for prognostication. If you are lucky enough to be an ADOS person in a position of power, if you are lucky enough to be an ally, if you are lucky enough to be a black immigrant who agrees with us in a position of power, this is a moment for advocacy. This is not a moment for you to play prognosticator. This is not a moment for you to pretend like you're George Will and you just lick your finger and put it up in the air and see which way the weather blows, baby. This is not that moment. If you are going to listen, if we are ever going to benefit from you having a pen to write, if we were ever going to benefit from you having a voice on TV, now is that moment. You all are misunderstanding the moment. Don't nobody need to hear y'all talk about what Bernie thinks. Don't nobody need y'all to interpret that old man. I don't need you to interpret him, Kamala. I don't need you to interpret any of these people who are running for office. I can interpret them fine. Elizabeth Warren, none of them. I don't need an interpreter. I need an advocate. If you're in that room and I'm not, you need to advocate. You need to understand this stuff. You need to build yourself up in a way that you have all of this information, all of this data, and you are using it in a way that benefits your people. If you are not doing that, what I'm trying to understand, if you are not doing that, what I am trying to understand is how are you of any benefit to me? I need you to be a race man or a race woman right now because that's what they made us into. Understand that you're at this job anyway because people think you understand black people for a large part. That's why you got to write the reparations article because they're like, hey, you can write it. You're black. You're a Negro. Go ahead, write it. This is hot right now. You're a Negro. We're going to get some clicks. Go do your thing. And then you write it wrong. And so here's how he ended. All of that stuff, you wrote all that stuff about everything that happened to us and systemic racism is real and it happened. And here's where you ended. Everybody is ending with a whimper and not a bang. Here's where you ended. All of this recognition of the problem is not going to disappear from the campaign trail anytime soon. Oh, God, duh. So there will be more opportunities for Harris and others to fine-tune their versions of reparations. None of them have shared a version of reparations. They've shared class-based stuff. They've given a wink and a nod and said, yeah, you're right. And what are you talking about? You're getting it all wrong. But, okay, but let me just calm down. But I tend to believe that their policies will ultimately more or less mirror what Sanders proposes, which is why I don't have a problem with him not using the R word. I don't have a problem with him not using the R word. So hold on a second. Wait a minute. So hold on a second. Let's just make sure we understand everything. You centered this whole thing about having a conversation about reparations. Let's have that conversation about reparations. And then you got to the end of it and you said, I don't know. I don't know no more than you know. And so if he don't say it, I don't care if he don't say it because I don't know nothing. The R word. I don't know. I don't have no idea. So I don't have no problem with him not saying it because I don't know. He don't know. And it's a valid question. And I'm moving on. I just wanted a headline. I just wanted some attention. Stop trying to use reparations to center yourself as a race person if you're not willing to take that chance. If you're not willing to do what needs to be done to have a very real and authentic conversation from a position of advocacy. Stop having the conversation. You ain't got to talk. You don't have to talk. Nobody asked you. Nobody said, well, what'd you think? Because we engaged him on Twitter. He said, I know. Seeing it, I decided to do this. Well, what you decided to do it for if you didn't know nothing and you weren't willing to learn nothing? That wasn't a reparations conversation. That was a Negro just saying, I don't know. And so I'm for Sanders because I don't know what it looked like. And I think it might be complicated. I don't want to engage on that level. I'm just going to say, I don't know, and I'm going to move on. This is a problem. This kind of laziness, that was lazy writing, that was lazy thinking, and this is going to handicap us. When people who have, listen, we got a lot of people out here right now who got 1 foot out and 1 foot in. You got 1 foot over here in white America, 1 foot over here in ADOS America, and a pinky toe over here in Latino America, and a big toe over here in I need all your toes, 10 toes down right here. And if you don't have all your toes down right here, then you can't speak for me. Just don't talk. Just understand that your internal life and your whole life is way too complicated. We need you here all the way, or you ain't got to be here. Nobody begged you to come and talk about anything. Stop trying to be the person who gets on TV and gets interviewed about reparations because you wrote an article. You're not an expert. Punt that off to somebody. I mean, it's funny because even Antonio and I have been very, very, very reluctant because of how big this is to do too many interviews or to go on screen and do a lot of stuff like that, because it's important how we get caricatured, how we get and who cuts up the video. All of that stuff is very important. It's also important what we say and how we say it. All of that stuff. You can't just go running around to all these different TV stuff and do this stuff and you just trying to get attention and all. No. God, the ego. I keep saying this. I keep saying it. So let's go down the list. Let's try to go down the list really. We're going to go down the list really, really quick. So you look at this. You look at this article. Let's just address this really quickly. You got Kamala on there. Kamala said that she's for reparations, but then she got on the grill and said she's not going to do anything specifically for ADOS people because her Lift Act disproportionately impacts them. That's a class-based thing. That's a class-based thing. It's not reparations. You said no. You have Bernie on the Breakfast Club. He said, what is it? Well, Bernie, you the lawmaker. How long you been in Congress? You should be telling me what it is. You should be telling me what it looked like. You should have helped pass HR 40 and helped me figure it out. You don't get the, well, what is it? I don't know. What is it? What do you mean when you say that? You know you could have researched some stuff or made a call to figure it out. You're trying to be slick, old man. Don't be slick to me. Be slick to somebody else, but I ain't with it. So Bernie said no. Somebody said, well, he didn't say no, Yvette. He just gave you a different yes. You a lie. Ain't nobody gave me no different yes. He said no. Okay, so we get to who else we got? Cory Booker, Baby Buns. That's class. That's great. That's class though. That's class. That's not reparations. Keep it pimping. Okay, now now somebody said some stuff. Somebody said something that was really slick. And in terms of politicians, sometimes I enjoy a little slick comment. You got your boy Julian Castro, who made up. Listen, these are all establishment politicians for the most part, with the exception of Bernie, who's further to the left in terms of what he wants to do in terms of the welfare net and all of that stuff. But Castro made a very good point. You have to eat the fish and spit out the bone. You got to deal with the good and the bad and parse that through. He said, listen, Bernie want to write out a check for everything. You know that we can spend all day, big money at the club, Bernie. We can do Medicare for all. We can do everything. We can do minimum wage. We can do it all. But then when you come to reparations, well, what did you mean? Well, I don't understand. You understand. So if you're going to write a big check for one thing, why can't you write a big check for ADOS? It does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. And understand something else. Around the same time, because I'm going to bring this all together, but around the same time, David Brooks came out with a case for reparations, right? Now, understand that this is a conservative columnist who came out and said this. And I heard the very same criticism from everybody. The same criticism of Castro and the same criticism of Brooks of the New York Times. Everybody was like, well, he ran HUD talking about Castro, and he and there was discrimination, and he oversaw all of that, and then he only called for a committee to study reparations. Okay, I got it. I take that criticism. I tend to agree with it. Well, Brooks, he the same way. He got to the end of the article. Let me see if I can find the end of the article. And this is how Brooks ended. Reparations are a drastic policy and hard to execute, but the very act of talking about and designating them heals a wound and opens a new story, right? So everybody says, see, he walked up to a line and he didn't cross it either. He didn't really tell us what reparations was either. Castro and Brooks ain't nothing. Here's what I want to say. They did the same thing basically as Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates, everybody walks up to this line and can only go past committee and can only go past let's study it. If you want to understand, everybody's mad at Brooks and everything because he's a conservative. But if you really understand what the problem is, the problem isn't that he wrote what he wrote as a conservative and the New York Times. The problem is that the rest of this liberal and leftist people, y'all so milquetoast that y'all let this conservative Republican get ahead of y'all. That's what you really mad about. You really mad about the left ain't came on board for reparations, and you mad that this conservative say, yeah, looks like a good idea. And you mad, and you got this establishment Democrat, this center right Democrat in Castro saying yeah, we should do a committee. Same thing Coates said. Let's do HR 40. It's the same thing. What I'm saying is this. Understand that this is a failure of the left. I mean, liberals and leftists. I understand they different. Liberals, leftists, two different people. Y'all, two different groups. Y'all can look it up. But y'all both failed. And y'all still failing. Y'all stay failing. Because the only way that these people can pass you is if you haven't done anything. You all have not done anything. You have made this all about universal policies and universal safety nets, and we all gonna be the same. And the left has not been serious about reparations ever, not ever. And so that's why you're here. So you don't get to blame nobody else for being in this position. You don't get to blame anybody for being here. And I agree that Brooks needs to do more, and he needs to put some meat on the bone. But the problem is, y'all can't even critique him for not putting no meat on the bone when liberals and leftists haven't put no meat on the bone. Y'all ain't did nothing. How you critiquing him? What has the left or the liberals done to put forth or push a reparations movement? It's not like y'all are walking around saying, well, it needs to be just 1 trillion as opposed to 10. You all are walking around saying we don't need that at all. We're gonna be the same through a jobs guarantee. We're gonna be the same through UBI. We're gonna be the same through robust welfare. This is a debt. A debt is not the same thing. What part of debt don't you leftists and liberals understand? That is not the same thing as like what society should be or how we envision society to look. Those are two very different things. Do I believe America needs a more robust welfare system, a more robust safety net? Sure. But I don't think America needs none of those things before it pays me and it pays my people. No, you don't get to just keep doing that 400 years in and y'all still, well, we got to do this first. And you don't want to do this, do you? And you got to do this, don't you? And how do you feel, Yvette? So that's we got Castro. Warren stepped out. Let me tell you, Warren stepped out the gate tough and then fell back on we got to have a conversation. Don't fall for this. We got to have a conversation stuff no more. We done had a whole bunch of conversations. We done had whole conversations on race, whole conversations on reparations. But the thing that happened this last few years that wasn't even available when Bernie first ran, you know, I was supportive of Bernie when he first ran because he was running against Hillary in that election cycle, but we didn't even have all this data that we have now, and we didn't have a reparations movement. Context matters. Data matters. Candidates matter. All of that matters, and all of that changes the context and the math of what we're doing right now. This is a window. This is a window to get something that we want and something that we need. And let me tell you something. I want somebody in the chat, tell me, can you get it to the month, how far we are outside of the presidential election? How far we are outside of the presidential election. I just want to understand, how far are we? Because I want you all to understand what it means and what you're hearing right now. I really need everybody to really understand that. Hey, somebody said 18 months. Somebody said 20 months, 20 months. Understand something. We got a long time. When we talk about canceling people and canceling politicians, understand that we have a very long time. Got a long way to go. But what I'm going to tell you is this. Anybody who is telling you right now, anybody who is bullying you right now and saying that you need to support Bernie right now, that person, there are all of these I believe in reparations but people. I believe in reparations but I don't think we're going to get it. I believe in reparations but we got to support Bernie. I believe in reparations but we got to get Trump. If you are I believe in reparations but person, just cut that butt off and say you don't believe in reparations. It's 19 months, 26 days. That's what somebody just said. That's far we are from the election. You're bullying me already? You never believed in reparations. You're telling me right now I can't cancel somebody? And let me tell y'all something else who are telling me I can't cancel. I haven't canceled anybody. I think it's too early. Let me be clear. I think it's too early to cancel anybody. It's too early to cancel anybody because people can learn and people can adjust based on what they see. So in terms of whether or not, I will speak to that as the election gets closer in terms of what my recommendation is. We will get that then. I think it's too early right now. But people who are going around bullying us and telling us that we don't get to cancel people and we don't get to feel a certain way and we don't get to make an argument. First of all, y'all are awful at politics. Nobody caves this early anyway. If you gonna cave, at least hold your ground for a little while. You are such a punk if you are caving right now. Nobody caves 19 months out and says, well, I agree with reparations, but I'm gonna support Bernie. We far away. We even far away from the freaking general. Like, you don't cave. First, and second of all, I don't know. Like, we have to decide. Like, you have to get something. You know, it's funny that everybody else gets to have their day. Everybody gets to have their day. Like, there's only one way that I would say that you had to cancel somebody right now. It would have to be something egregious. So that person would have had to say something egregious in order for me to say, yeah, you can't even get in the race. Don't jump out, just don't jump in. And that would be this fellow. The only person who I cannot see ever getting my vote right now at this juncture is Biden. But that's because of something that egregious that he did. And it's not just one thing that happened at one time. He has a history from desegregation to busing to mass incarceration. His record is just that bad. He has made a life. He has built his life on kowtowing to racism at the expense of ADS survival. So I can cancel you. But you have to do something egregious to get canceled. I'm not canceling anybody else right now because these people can learn. Some people are close to being canceled, but I'm waiting on some stuff. But Biden, this stuff, no. You stood in the way of everything that we needed to be. Let me just show you. Let me just read to you some of the stuff Biden said. I do not buy the concept popular in the 60s, which said we have suppressed the black man for 300 years and the white man is now far ahead in the race for everything our society offers. In order to even the score, we must now give the black man a head start or even hold the white man back to even the race, Biden said in 1975. I don't care when you said it. That's some racist stuff to say. That's reverse racism. Y'all holding white people back nonsense. You have kowtowed to racists at the expense of ADOS life and survival. You have been part of the problem, whether you go all the way back, whether you go to the speech, you can go look it up. I'm not going to play it for copyright reasons, but you can go all the way, look it up. The speech he made about he don't care what the problem was in terms of the crime bill. You can go look that up. You can see what he said about busing, right? Let's look at what he said about busing. The real problem with busing, he said, was that you take people who aren't racist, people who are good citizens, who believe in equal education and opportunity, and you stunt their children's intellectual growth by busing them to an inferior school. And you're going to fill them with hatred. What he's saying is just like, listen, if white people don't want to be around you, if they don't like you, if they think you, you just need to leave white people alone and let them, they're going to be racist if they get made to be around you. Like, you black and you're a contagion to everything. So they're going to be upset if they have to be around you. Why don't we, let me ask you something. Let me just ask you something. I want to understand, why do we just now know about this? Why didn't we really talk about this? Why didn't we have this conversation when Obama picked Biden? Y'all had Biden going around running, looking all jovial and gooful. Oh, that's Uncle Joe. That's Uncle Joe. Joe ain't never been an uncle of mine and an uncle of yours either. How come we didn't know this? And how Obama had to know this? I'm sure Obama's researchers knew this. What kind of person picks this person as their running mate? Who? Understand this is egregious. This is awful. Like, when you decide you want to cancel somebody, that means that they have a span. Like, they have some stuff that they have done wrong, either some intensely bad stuff recently, or they have a history. And Biden has a history. This is racist. There's no other way you can say it. This is racist. This is racist. This is racism. This is racist policy. And so with him, you can just knock him out the box. Knock him out the box. And the only reason he's polling well is because of white racism. See, that's what everybody don't want to have a conversation about. All of y'all who are upset at the fact that ADOS people won't just do what we normally do, which is get along and say, we normally just get along. Oh, shucks. You right. We can't have everything we want. We got to get rid of Trump. We never said everything. We can talk about reparations looks like. We never said we have to have. We never said that like it has to be 17 trillion tomorrow. Let's have a conversation about it. But you can't tell us what we can't do and what we can't have and what kind of conversations we can't have. That's very paternalistic. And the kind of conversation that y'all have with me online is borderline racist and sometimes racist. To tell me the kind of conversation I have to have. I'm with this group. This is my group. I know what this data looks like. I know you've been out here doing whatever you do with your, with throwing your Marxist books in the air or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. But I know what this looks like. And I know what it looks like in data. I know what it looks like anecdotally. I know what it looks like in terms of family life. You don't. I don't know what kind of life you live in, but you don't get to tell me what to do. So we can just knock Biden out of this. Biden canceled. He finished. We finished with him. Now let's just move on to somebody else who doesn't have a history of racist policies and kowtowing to the racists and trying to get the racist vote. I don't need no racist Uncle Joe. I think we need to just understand where we are. And we get to, I don't think listen, part of the problem is that we don't understand. We don't understand that canceling people is part of our right. We get to cancel people. Can't nobody tell us we can't cancel nobody based on what? Who are you to say that? You don't get to tell us who we can't cancel based on something that's important to us. If we have decided reparations is a central issue, your job, let me tell you, on Twitter, if you're a commentator, if you work for a campaign, if you are an advocate, if a significant group that votes for Democrats has decided, as ADOS are, that this is what we want and this is central to us, your job is to convince the person that you work for. Your job is to convince Bernie and Kamala and Booker and all these and Warren. Your job is to convince them. Your job is to say you need to get on board with ADOS people because they have decided they want reparations. They're not moving off their square. That's your job. Your job ain't to punch down at me. How are you punching down at the bottom caste? How are you punching down at me with your Twitter on Twitter on Twitter? You don't get to do that. You don't get to tell me how to feel and what to do and who to be while you drive back to your nice neighborhood and your nice life. You don't get to do that. We don't take the like, when you understand how crazy it is that we voted for Biden through Obama. If something had happened to Obama, Biden would have been our president. This guy with this racist history. Do you understand how lost we have been in terms of defining our own politics? But we're here now, and we're defining what we want and what we need to be American. Now we're not saying that we won't adjust. We're not saying we won't negotiate how it looks in the end, but we're saying this is our square. And you all owe us for all these Democratic politicians that we be electing. Like, we ain't got nothing since, like, what? We got Voting Rights Act and all of the gains of the fair housing have been eviscerated. We saw that. That was in the newsletter. If you subscribe to the newsletter. So, like, all these elections that came after that y'all been just getting for free, and we've been putting y'all in power and office for free and not demanding nothing. That's over, Nancy Pelosi. You better figure something out. You better figure out some kind of plan. Ain't nobody finna keep moving and do, well, you just know you gotta do, it ain't as bad as the Republicans. You know, you just gotta you gotta do what you gotta do. And that's what you gotta do when you gotta vote for them. You just gotta vote for them, you know, because, you know, Trump. No, y'all created Trump. I don't know what to tell you. Uncreated something. America created this rich man. We couldn't get anything, and y'all created this, like, rich man who don't know nothing. We didn't do that. We don't owe you for that. Like, you the one, like, they got rich off of the federal government loan. We didn't even get none of that. Like, we don't owe you for that. We don't owe you for, we didn't vote for it. We didn't put him in office. We don't owe you to get him out of there when you put him in there. Why don't you go clean up your own mess sometimes? I always want us, well, you know, you gotta get with him. No, we already getting damaged, and y'all did that to us. And you don't want to make it right. You know, we need to understand, when people start having, and I'm gonna go to the phones after this, but when people start having these conversations about blackness and how we have to understand class, you have to understand that to a large extent, the creation of blackness erases class. That's why when you look, let me bring this up really quick. That's why when you look at this, we brought this up many times before, but let me bring it up again. That's why we don't really have a class structure. That's why when you look at us, we're just economically, for the most part, flat, with a few boomers who got some affirmative action and stuff in there. You have to understand that that's because of race, and we don't really have a class. And you have to understand, I don't care what you're pushing. Anything. Race can be fused into anything. So I don't care if you, like I said before, if you have a jobs guarantee, you can put us on the bottom where all the white people get all the good jobs in the jobs guarantee program, and all of us end up cleaning toilets, because we still have the same positionality. What I am aiming for, my thing to do, my charge, my conviction, is that we need to change our positionality on this hierarchy in America, because we were robbed of it. I don't want to just get the same thing that everybody else gets, and so you have a little bit more, but you're still on the bottom of the totem pole in terms of America. And let's be very clear, people. The way America operates, I would love for America to do all of it. And I think if leftists want to advocate, they need to advocate for that. But I know how America works. If we just get some kind of class-based program, that's going to be all we get in a generation. And your grandkids may not even be here. They may be starved out. And if they're here, they'll be beggars. So here this moment, while we have everybody's attention, this is the moment to make this push. And this is the moment to stay on your square. Don't let nobody knock you off your square. There's enough information that Darity has out there, that we have out there, that we have shared, for you to be able to stand on your square better than anybody else stands on their square. That's what we got to do. So I'm going to go take a quick break to set up the phones as usual. We'll come back, fam. We'll have the conversation. Please, if you're in the chat, please hit that like button for me. And we'll come back and have the conversation. All right, fam. We are back. We are back, and we are going to have a conversation. I am just going to go straight into the conversation. I'm going to go to 615. 615, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Yes, my name is Dean. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
What's going on? What's on your mind?
Hello, Mrs. Connell.
What's going on?
Much. I'm listening to the conversation, seeing all the dynamics around reparations play out on the news and stuff and everything. And, I feel that, Joe Biden, he feels emboldened that he has this concept in his mind that after 8 years of being VP of Obama, that he's going to be able to just journey on down the yellow brick road to the White House, and nothing will be further from the truth. And those comments he had all from that 1975 article, where he thought it was asinine to desegregate schools by busing, I find it asinine for ADOS to vote for him, or anybody else that thinks like him. And another thing too, it's like when you showed that tweet of Julian Castro where he started throwing in universal health care and all these trickle down policies, and then at the very end he placed reparations down there. That right there, it's like he was just trying to shoehorn like universal health care for illegal immigrants. And also too, you can't factor out that if you're gonna put the universal health care in there and try to covertly put it off in there for illegal immigrants, then voting is not gonna be too hard to find somewhere in that proposal.
Yeah, I don't think he was doing that then. I think he was just taking a dig at Bernie right there. But I'm not saying that's not a concern going forward, though.
Yeah, because I just don't like, because even when they do want to talk about reparations, they talk about it in a way of, okay, let's spread it out to everybody, and if it rains on me, it's gonna rain on you, and that's not how it works, and
yeah, like birthday cake, like everybody get a piece of birthday cake, like we're gonna give everybody cake for everybody. It's like, no, that's not what. There's a debt. Like you just don't get to just like we know this is supposed to be for you, but we're gonna use it for society, and you're gonna benefit. Like, what you talking about?
Yeah, and Joe Biden, when he said that he didn't believe that he should have to pay the sins of his father because the black man was held back for 300 years, and then all of a sudden give him a head start.
Well, black people.
Well, the way America was set up, the white man got a 300-year head start. That's what he got. And
it's not even like that's not even like, understand something though, fam. No, we have to understand that's not even the right analogy. Like, it's not even a head start where like we're in the race. Like, no, you made your money by running on us. Like, we were your shoes. Like, it wasn't even a head start. You made us into something that wasn't even human. You made us into this object to create wealth for you and be a contagion to wealth in communities and to ourselves. Like, it's not even, if it was a race, that would even be better, that you just got a head start, but we're also in the race. No, you were racing and you made us shoes to build wealth, and now you're just like, I don't want these shoes no more. I'm gonna throw these shoes away. I got new shoes. And it's just, and we're trying to figure out how not to be your shoes.
Understood. Well, I don't want to hold up the phone calls. I enjoy listening to y'all. I'm learning every day, and I just now picked up my copy of the book, The Color of Law.
Okay.
Is it? No. I think it's The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein.
Okay.
And I just picked up the copy of it today.
Make sure y'all pick up a copy of Make sure you pick up a copy of When Affirmative Action Was White. I read that a while ago. That was very well done, and I think it was more encompassing. I pick up the Rothstein book too, but I used to recommend that book all the time, but I kind of got it caught up in other books. So pick up that book too when you get a chance. It was really good.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Have a good one. All right, fam. I am going now to 323. 323. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, my name is Vernell.
Hey, Vernell, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I worked in corrections, and I was thinking about Uncle Joe in that crime bill. What they did was, I even worked through corrections with Biden and Kamala. What they did is, they literally turned the Democratic Party on the black community by they began to block the union, so we couldn't go up in there, and every other avenue that young black males had, they began to close them up.
Mm.
And I remember when I left the correctional centers and went to the probation office, I remember they took a kid back, and they said he had a weapon in his house. Now, his mother was a postal carrier. The weapon was mace. And, I mean, that's just one in a dozen of the stories.
Okay.
But, again, I wanted to tell you, thank you for the work you're doing. And I gave my son what I call the ADOS Pack for Dummies. I gave him you and Tone Talks website. Then I gave him an old book that I had, Randall Robinson, The Debt, and asked him to read it.
Yeah, I had that book too. Now, when you say they turned them on each other, do you mean that like the sort of mace was in the house, and so like she couldn't have the mace, so you end up getting in trouble for your family? Like, expound on that just a little bit for me.
I'm sorry, what you asked me?
No, I asked you to expound on a little bit about the mace being in the postal carrier's house with the son, like, and you said what
happens is out here they have a lot of dogs, so you have to have mace. That's part of the uniform you wear.
Yeah.
So they attached that to him being attached to a weapon, having a weapon in the house.
Mm.
That's just how flimsy it was. Because my job was to help.
Well, a lot of that happened. A lot of that happened with HUD too.
Okay.
In terms of in terms of people who were living in projects, like and like if your grandson or whatever got into a fight, or granddaughter got into a fight, like it wasn't like the person had to be convicted of something. Like it was just about if something happened, they could just put you out of public housing.
It was called negative. They used the term negative contact.
Mm.
And that's what a lot of that they use. They use words so vague that they can easily imprison you or give you a case.
Okay.
And the point that I'm making is they begin. The Democratic Party is a system that works against black people. Everybody knows it's the unions. Right now, and I'm in California. You would find a dinosaur before you find a young black kid in a union. I mean, it's literally, they're being literally, you cannot find one. They're literally being blocked out. Now, some of the other options, there used to be Job Corps. They moved Job Corps out of the area where black kids could go. Now, that's becoming like getting into Harvard now.
Mm.
So they're slowly closing any options. But like I say, they're building more and more prisons out here.
Yeah, Supermax.
And they're
Supermax will take
prisoners from other states. So,
all right.
California don't have any money, but they have a ton of prisons. All right.
Yeah, they got Supermax. They got Supermax to take you. You need somewhere to stay? Supermax will take you. Thank you, fam.
Exactly.
I appreciate it. And let me just say this. There were studies. This is not something that like nobody knew. There were studies, there were projections like what this mass incarceration bill would look like. What it would mean for communities. All of that was there. So it's not like, well, nobody knew. Nobody understood. How could they know? They knew. It's just nobody cared. And like Bill Clinton made promises to the CBC, like some of the CBC, I'm not talking about all, about like, well, we're going to do both. We're going to do the other stuff you want too, but we're not going to do this. We're going to do some other stuff too. And he never did it. But like the problem for me becomes like when a person goes back on their word on you, if you were one of the people who were depending on Bill Clinton to do the right thing, at what point do you just excommunicate him and be like, he ain't nothing? This man has been able to walk around in ADOS communities for like decades after that. After like this mass incarceration and gut and welfare, like at what point do you not see him for who he was and who he is? So I'm going to 470. 470, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. My name is Antoinette, and I'm calling from Stone Mountain.
Hey,
It
Antoinette.
is such a pleasure to finally speak to you. I've been listening to you and Tone for about the last 2 years, but before I actually started listening to you guys, I just knew something was not right. Yvette, I hold 2 degrees, and I'm 2 classes away from my second master's in finance.
Okay.
But with all that education, the money, I'm not making it with the income. And on top of that, like you said, all this debt that we hold from student loans. I, too, went to Howard for 2 years, but I graduated from Clayton State later on and whatnot. But the thing about it, Yvette, what pisses me off so bad, and I'm with you on this, I'm not giving up. Reparation is due and it's owed, and I damn want it. Because I'm at the point of, if these candidates are not talking about it, I ain't got nothing for you. And like you said, for Biden, cancel his ass out. Excuse my language. Cancel him out. He is not for us. And I don't know if you watched this past week, Andrew Jane, he was talking about the universal income or whatever, like each American get $1,000 to $2,000 a month or whatever, like they do in Alaska. Okay, fine, but he was not with reparations. So my thing is, if you're not talking about it for ADOS, I'm not with you. And because I really feel it right now, and I'm so angry because we did what we were supposed to do. I'm about to be 44, and I did everything. Go to school. That's what our parents taught us. Go to school, get your education, get a good job, and this and that. But it is not paying off.
No, it's a lie. It was a lie. It was a lie. And it was, and let me just say one thing, fam. While you're talking, it was like white people say, "What happened to me too?" No, like understand that, like poor white people have 10,000 in worth. We're negative. Understand that, like, it's always been a lie for us. Like, it's not like we had one little moment where a few of us got some affirmative action and tried to run off and leave everybody else. But understand that, like what America is supposed to be. We have Indian immigrants who head up Microsoft and all these other places, and we got shut out. So it's just like it's a different kind of lie for us. Like, it's almost like when you look at it honestly, like America has been a lie for us. And like, but this is my country, the country of my birth. We're not going nowhere. So stop playing with yourself. So what are you gonna do?
I mean, I'm gonna let myself be an example. Okay, I have, with all of the, almost 3 degrees, I have over $200,000 in student loan debt. And when you get the refunds, I had to put myself through school. My mom couldn't give me anything. So when the refunds came back, I needed that money. So there was no turning that back in. I wish I could have, but now that I'm out of school, working in my field and everything, and I had to get on the student loan forgiveness program. But what most people don't know about that, Yvette, is when you reach your 10-year mark and you've made 121 consecutive payments at the end of that program, all of what they're gonna write off of me, the 200,000 plus or whatever, they're gonna tax me on that. That's like I estimated about $60,000 in tax that I'm gonna have to pay. I mean, it's like, are you kidding me?
And you can't. Ain't no way you can do that.
Still behind the 8 ball.
They might no, you ain't just behind the 8 ball, fam. They might as well tell you to pay $1 gazillion. Like, if you're gonna tell somebody that the tax bill is like 60, you might as well say the bill is $1 gazillion. You're gonna pay in cash or credit. I'm gonna pay in potato wedges and pinto beans. I don't know. What are you talking to me about? Like that? No, that's not something that. What do you want me to do? Blood? I don't know. Like, that's not even a oh yeah, you're right. That's not even a bill. I don't even know what you call that. That's not a bill. That's not a bill. That's a life sentence or something.
Exactly. So I say that to say this. As far as what reparations look like for me personally, delete those student loans for me. I'm an ADOS 100% to the 4th degree. Delete that, and my mortgage that I have, delete the interest that you have me paying. And also give me a $20,000 grant to apply to the principal. ADOS, I say what you do is you just only allow, when we get business loans, mortgage loans, student loans, or whatever, we only pay the damn interest. And you get a $20,000 grant to start it off, to wipe some of that off for us. I mean, we need a head start. I'm not for people talking about, a universal this. No. I'm over all that. I'm not with it at all.
Because it don't work. But fam, because understand it's a scam. Like, understand let's break down what you just said. I want to just break that down so people can be clear before we go on. You just said basically you go from owing a private like debt collector or a college or whatever to on the IRS, 60 or whatever. So you go from one debt to another debt. You go from one, and the IRS ain't playing games. So you go from one debt to another debt. How is that some kind of forgiveness?
There's no escaping IRS. Yeah. But that's what it is, that student loan forgiveness program. What most people don't understand, if they write that off for you, you are going to, they're going to consider that as income you kept in your pocket, and they're going to tax you on it. Because they're going to report that to the IRS, and there is no escaping it. You got to pay that. So once that kick in for me, I will be getting a refund for, probably 2 decades.
Life.
Until I pay that off.
You ain't getting no refund for life.
But
like, do you know how much money that is?
Exactly. It's more than what I got to give. Yeah. So, I just wanna say that I really appreciate you and Tone. And before I started watching y'all 2 years ago, I knew something was wrong, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. And y'all came on YouTube and put it all in place for me. And I thank you. God bless you.
Thank
and
you.
I'll talk to you some other time. Let other callers get in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And let me just say this. I think, thank you, fam. I appreciate you calling in. I think what happens is like everybody, like what you find with ADOS is that like we all knew something was wrong. Like, but not only was there nobody to give a voice to it, but every time like somebody tried to talk about it, you got bullied. Like, see, it wasn't until we all got coalesced around something that you can't bully us. We're a group now. We strong. We strong out here in these streets. You can't bully us no more. But before that, what happened was it was easy to bully us because we were just kind of scattered making cases. And so like, well, you don't know, you just a racist. So it's just like, I don't want to be bothered. But now they can't do that anymore. Like, well, you just no, it's there are black people with money. And this is like, when I look at the data, no, you a lie. I see it right here. We're a community in collapse. That's what this means. Well, just all your way because you just don't make no sense no more. So I think once we got on the same page and once the data became available, like we were able to really put this stuff in motion in a way that if we stay on this square will benefit us and understand it's already benefited us in understanding who we are in the context of our very specific life and our very specific justice claim. We've already benefited from a level of understanding. It ain't me. America's really screwed me. Like it ain't nothing that I've done individually. It ain't a case of, well, all these other black people just doing better than me. No, I know what the data says. We all here together. And we need to what that means when we all here together, we all need to advocate together. We all need to be on the same page in terms of our advocacy. So that's what we are. I am going now to 425. I am coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello, Yvette. This is Tope. I'm calling from California. So nice to be here with you.
Hey, what's going on? What's on your mind?
I'm doing very well. I'm so excited. I'm gonna hold off on all the salutations I would give you because all the great work you've done.
Oh, thank you.
But I wanted to kind of present a thought to you, maybe to listeners as well. Okay. So I know there's so much opposition to the reparations movement, especially people from outside ADOS. There's such a misunderstanding of blackness, which you've talked about in a lot of your past videos.
Uh-huh.
What do you think? How do you think something like updating the census to make a separate category for ADOS would do for maybe helping to shoehorn this project along? I feel like a lot of people oppose it because they don't understand blackness.
Well, they are breaking it down into like categories. I was looking at an NPR story. The guy who does census stuff there was talking about how it gets broken down now. And white, you got to break it down, and black, African American, or whatever, you break it down. I really wish there was an ADOS category. But the other thing that I wish though, in addition to that, I wish that there was some way to like confirm this because like I think the thing that you run up against once you do that and like you have specific actual like benefits for ADOS. I think what happens is like how do you deal with somebody who just lies? Like what do you do?
Correct. Right. I think I know it's not like a perfect solution for like this is the count of ADOS because they all check the box. But I think it makes people start thinking differently when they're like, oh yeah, because my parents they're Yoruba people, so they came here in the '80s, and I humbly genuflect to the ADOS. We ate off that. And I'm so grateful, you know what I'm saying? That's why I'm so passionate about this movement, because I feel like I owe, and the beautiful, my cousins. But in any case, like, people don't understand that. People see me and they group things together to make so many assumptions. So I think just updating the consciousness of everybody in the country of like, you don't even understand what black is, and you're talking real crazy about it right now. So just wanted to share that. I really appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you too. I think we're headed in that direction though, fam, even with the census now. I think we just got to keep pushing. I think there's a lot of stuff we have to push
I'm
for.
behind you.
Okay, I appreciate it, fam. I appreciate it. Allies and family and everybody else, I appreciate it. But I think we have to keep pushing in terms of the census. I think ADOS can become a category. I don't see why it can't. I think it absolutely can become a category. Like we have now, like they break it down, but like there's no way to to claim your ancestors or make sure that you're telling the truth. But I do believe in the consciousness in terms of like, I think ADOS should be a category. When you see the black category or whatever it is, it should be like, are you ADOS? And then there should be a bunch of subgroups beneath ADOS, right? I think that should be something that happens. And I think he's right in terms of like, that changes the context and the consciousness and the understanding of your positionality in this country in terms of your contribution, right? And the contribution of your people. So I am going now to 646. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. What's going on?
Hi. My name is Sean from Brooklyn.
Okay.
Okay, so my Bernie is a cancer for me. Bernie he stood his ground from 2016. He said reparation was divisive, and it would never pass on the floor. I think he's trying to make it divisive because he knows how to get the reparation. The Holocaust with the Jews, they received it, and they're making it like we're going to tax the white people to pay the black people. I don't want taxes from white people. I want taxes from J.P. Morgan Chase. I want taxes from Carolina Rice. I want taxes from tobacco. Those are the people.
Hold on.
Yes,
I'm gonna let you finish, fam. But I want to tell you, I want taxes from everybody. Because let me tell you, because even white people who don't do that, who aren't part of the JP Morgans, they eat off our failure. Like everything that like the contagion that we are, and not having to be around that contagion, and everything that has to be in our communities, they benefit from. So I agree with you. I want tax from all them other people too. But I want taxes from white America gotta pay, because this is a debt that a country owes, not an individual. The entire country, from corporations to individuals, the entire country owes this debt as a country. And this country needs to uniformly pay it. And I'm gonna let you finish, fam. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I mean, I understand that, but my thing is these J.P. Morgan, they mortgaged us. They have liens on us. So places like that, they need to be like a 1% tax on their $1 trillion of profit they're making.
Sure.
And at least, I don't know, 10% tax every year for like 200 years coming to us for the ADOS. And let's do it. I mean, let's make it happen that way. But Bernie, he's definitely no. And he gets indignant. He gets out. He's very defiant, and he's set on his place. He's not changing his mind. He does not want to give it to us. I'm not going to wait around for him. And he stated it. He's been stating it since 2016. He told them it would be divisive. Now, how isn't it divisive that the Holocaust, the Jews received it? It wasn't divisive then, so how is it divisive now? I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. My grandpa came from Beaufort, South Carolina. Okay, Sneak Farm Plantation. That's Pinckney, the founding of the Constitution. My great-great-grand-uncle is buried on that farm right now, that plantation. And on this day, they still make money off Bean Hall Plantation, Magnolia, Sneak Farm Plantation. All these plantations can be taxed and given to us. These people, they go around and make it like it's so inconvenient. When you want to do your other things, you find money for it. When it comes to us, you don't want to find the money because you don't want us to excel. You don't want to pay your debt. And it's been too long. Bernie is not changing his mind. I'm done.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it.
I can't pay POS. Okay? I know what it is.
Thank you, family. I appreciate the call. Listen, let me tell Let me tell white America, it's irresponsible not to pay your bills. You have to pay your bills. You all have been lecturing us on responsibility for how many years? I'm here to tell you it's irresponsible not to pay your bills. And so what happens is, here's the thing. Like when the stuff first happened, when Bernie first ran, I gave him a pass because on the reparations thing, because nobody had a reparations idea. NAACP didn't have it. Nobody had it. Ta-Nehisi Coates said study it. There was nothing here to do. Like, if Ta-Nehisi Coates wanted to call Bernie to task about not supporting reparations, what he really should have done is put something on paper and then say, why don't you do it? Like, but I was just like, Bernie stuff looks just like the NAACP stuff. But what I didn't realize that I had to figure out was that the NAACP's reparations plan was garbage. Like, all of these plans were just to, like, appease white America. They weren't real plans. Like, when you talk about infrastructure and stuff, that's something that America should do just because, like, we're citizens too. That's not a reparations plan. They were talking universalism in terms of reparations. When you really look at the data and you really put together a reparations plan, then you can have that conversation and be like, okay, why aren't you in favor of this? We've done the calculations. We're here now. In these last few years, I don't think people understand, in these last few years, we've gotten all the data. We've gotten every piece of data that you need to really understand what Black life is about, what ADOS life is about, and what inflicts us and how the poverty is baked into our communities. Once you get that, you understand that, like, there's no way as a moral person, there's no way as a person who understands how we got made a bottom class that you should be like, well, what does it mean? What does it mean? No, there's no way you should be able to say that. And so, you know, I haven't canceled anybody. I think I heard Bernie said, oh, he's going, like, he would always support the nominee. Like, I don't even think you're trying to win anyway. But I think my whole point though is that, like, once I hear you say that, once I see you move in such a way that I felt that on the Breakfast Club, he was just very dismissive. I felt he was very dismissive of reparations. Like, I don't even feel like he talked about it with any degree of seriousness. Like, well, what does that mean? Like, you've had a lot of time, old man. You old as dirt. You don't know what it means? You know what reparations in general means. You haven't tried to look up what it means specifically for us. You haven't talked to, like, reparations experts. I find that really problematic just in terms of me selecting a president. In terms of you being that selection. I'm not saying, now, she canceled you. I'm not saying you can't change. You can talk to some people. You and Darity can schedule a parlay. I don't know. I'll leave it open. But this whole thing where we just do universalism and just skip over what you owe ADOS people, I have a real problem with that. And I think, and I'm on this square, and I'm going to stay on this square, and nobody's going to bully me off this square. Like, I don't know what y'all are doing. So anyway, I'm going to 757. 757, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello, Yvette.
Hey.
Hey, hi. This is Kim calling from Virginia. Sorry,
Hey,
it's not Otis.
No, I don't think he on today.
I've been calling and I had 3 quick points, but I wanted to make like very quick.
Okay.
The first one is I appreciate what you and Tone have done, and like you said before, I personally have always thought that there was something wrong, even growing up here in Virginia, just in general studying and learning. But like you said, it was always the data that we lacked, and leaders that got left behind after the civil rights movement didn't necessarily want to pick up that particular baton. I think everybody got a little scared, and everybody just ran off to do them.
Yeah, I think so.
And the second thing I wanted to mention is what you and Tone have done is so profound that I was actually watching another YouTube video March 2nd, and you all got mentioned and was requested to do an interview possibly on a channel on YouTube called Black Magic 363, which is a metaphysical channel. And the reason why I said that is because typically those who subscribe to the metaphysical philosophy, they don't necessarily ascribe to politics and voting. But the fact that the gentleman who runs the channel even said that because of the work that you and Tone have done discussing reparations, how the entire party and candidates on the Democratic side are now struggling and scrambling to even mention the topic whatsoever. And they're even mentioning how you and Tone have been leading this charge and have been leading this fight for the past couple of years. So I just wanted to know if that was something that maybe you guys would be interested in doing. And
I didn't know anything about it. You can email me, but I hadn't heard anything about it.
Okay, I can definitely email that to you. That's not a problem. And my third point I wanted to make is while we're not canceling anyone yet, I do want us to be conscientious as a group as far as the candidates that are talking about reparations. Marianne Williamson, was on the Breakfast Club today, and she mentioned Dr. Darity and Antonia Moore when she was talking about reparations. Of course, their interview wasn't the best, but what she was mentioning in talking points, it stuck out to me very specifically because it seemed the way that she was framing the reparations argument was that it was a debt that America owed us, which is 100% true. It is a debt. However, I want to be very clear and concise. You cannot absolve this debt. Americans cannot absolve this debt simply just by writing everyone in the ADOS group a check.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to money, we need policies that correspond to the issues that we have been facing for the past 100+ years within this country. You can't just write us a check and think that's going to solve the problem. So that was all I wanted to say. I don't want to take up too much of the time. I'll go ahead and email you that information.
Okay. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it.
Good night.
You too. I think I've talked about policy, and we have to be made a protected group. We have to, and then the door has to be left open for opportunity. So the government has to leave that door open for opportunity for us. The government, but that's not. That's just. I mean, you can say that, but I don't even think that's part of it. But like, there's so much. Like, this has to be. That's why I always, when we talked about lineage therapy. That's why when I talk about reparations, I talk about it like as this all-encompassing. This all-encompassing thing. It is this all-encompassing thing. It's not just one thing. It's not just a small. It is like reparations and how it's dispersed should be all we're talking about. We should be subsumed with that right now as a country. It's a multi-generational. I've always said that it takes far longer to heal a wound than to inflict a wound. If you slash somebody, it only takes a second to cut somebody with a knife. It's going to take weeks for that person to heal, if not months, depends on how deep that wound is. And so it's going to take us longer to heal. So when you look at that, it's going to take long. It really should take longer than 400 years. This should be a multi-generational project that America should engage in. Because really, in a lot of ways, I think that the South won the war. And I think that we have, and even if you don't think it won, the everybody else has been appeasing that kind of sentiment, and that sentiment is not just in the South, it's everywhere now. And everybody has been appeasing that sort of racism. And that's a problem. That's a real problem. I'm going to 510. 510, what's your name? Where you calling from? And what is on your mind? 510, you there? All right, 510, we're going to have to let you go. All right, 323, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. My name is Dawn. I'm calling out of California.
Hey, Dawn.
And hi, how you doing?
Pretty good.
I spoke to you before some time back, and I want to ask you a question because this is what I think. This is the conundrum that I think we're in at this stage right now. When you talk about the federal bench and what Trump is doing to the federal bench and to the the appellate court and the Supreme Court, these are lifetime appointments. Okay, so what is you and Tone Talk's response going to be to Roland Martin? Because he brought up this. I don't know if you watch his long diatribe on how we cannot afford not to vote, because of what's going on with the federal bench. And I hate to say it, well, that is an argument that I want to know how is he going to rebuttal that? Because, with the two people that he has on Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, and what the Republicans are doing to gut the federal bench, especially in North Carolina, all the voter suppression tactics that they're engaging in right now, how are we going? What's your rebuttal to that? Because those are strong arguments too, and how do we deal with this? I mean, this is a big problem that we have because these are lifetime, appointments. And that one lady there's two federal that they got on there which one lady she's only been out of law school 9 years. She's
Yeah, I know.
Had like 3 cases.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Listen, here's my thing.
Yeah.
And I want to be very clear on this. I am not encouraging anyone to sit the election out. What I am doing at this very early stage, which, I mean, Roland Martin is sort of politically incompetent to try to make that case at this stage. That's the case that you make if Yvette says sit this out and you're right before the election and I come out and I say everybody stay home. Then you can make the case that this election is too important to stay home. I have never, and this is the incompetence of Roland Martin and his inability to comprehend information. I have never said that you should stay home. What I have said is this. I said that I am not in the business right now where I am. This is what I'm trying to do in terms of my project right now. I am not trying to suppress the black vote. I am trying to influence the black vote. I am not trying to suppress. So what I'm trying to do is get more out of politicians. Because understand something. Getting a judge in position, that's wonderful. You know, and somebody like Roland don't really get to say nothing because you cheated for Hillary Clinton. Like you had a man who had been in prison who wanted to ask Hillary Clinton a question, who didn't get to ask that question cold because Roland Martin allegedly, from everything that we know, gave that question to Donna Brazile, who gave it to Hillary Clinton. So we didn't even get to, so you don't get to say nothing, Roland. You don't get to have a conversation. But what I'm saying is that we need to get accustomed to influencing politicians and influencing them early. What we're trying to do as an ADOS community is influencing these politicians very early. We've got to get out of the habit of just getting on board with whatever they're going to do and just staying on board regardless. We have very specific needs. So what I'm saying is that we have to get on board very early. Listen, somebody sent me like what I said earlier. We're 19 months out. You don't get to say 19 months out, well, we got to vote for them because of the judges. That's something you say if you're going to say it a week out, 2 weeks out, maybe a month out. We're 19 months out. We get to tell them this early in the game, this man's incompetent. That's what I keep telling people. This early in the game, you get to tell people what you want. And this gives them time to figure it out. See, I'm not coming to you 2 months before the election, 3 months. I'm coming to you a long time to tell you this is what we want. This is what we need. That gives you plenty of time to figure out how you're going to deal with the ADOS community, how you're going to give our vote, how you're going to get our vote. That gives you plenty of time to do that. But let me just say this too, before I go on. Let me say one other thing. I do agree at the importance of judges and the importance of these people being there. But I'm telling you, and I'm telling everybody else that we need more than that. The problem is, like, we can't eat the judge. Like, the judge is essential in terms of, like, everything that we're talking about in terms of Voting Rights Act, everything we talked about in terms of in terms of, like, when you talk about ADOS people come before, when you talk about law enforcement, when you talk about the Justice Department, all of that, judges are essential. I'm not saying that they aren't. I agree that should be a component of what we take into consideration when we decide who to vote for. But I'm saying that, like, when you're a bottom cast, you have to get out here and advocate for more than just judges. And what I'm saying is that somebody like Roland is very comfortable. You see Roland in his house all the time, eating way too much gumbo, dancing. He's living a good life. And when you live that kind of good life, sometimes you don't reach back and understand that the majority of ADOS had never worked for CNN and are doing this stuff and they're leading horrible lives. And you have to advocate for your group, not just for like what you think, not just for your particular life. See, Roland is leading too good a life, it seems to me, to kind of speak for the rest of us, because he's leading a life where he's like, well, I think that's all you got to do. I'm doing fine. I had gumbo 8 times today. Well, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people didn't eat. A lot of people are driving Uber. A lot of people are just like, we're barely existing. So what I am demanding of Democrats, and I'm demanding this early enough for you to get your stuff together and get our vote, is that you give us more rather than less. We've been getting less. We've been getting the short end of the stick. Everybody else been getting what they want. I'm telling you very specifically what we want and what we need. You know, the DNC is having its convention in Milwaukee, and 50% of black men are unemployed in Milwaukee, and almost every black neighborhood is either Section 8 or a prison. Like, everybody needs to be asking Democrats, demanding of Democrats, what are you going to do about this? I'm advocating that we go further, do more, demand more, because we need it. It's not even a matter of like what we want anymore. Like, this is what we need for survival. We're in survival right now. This is what we are. And everybody needs to understand that. And you don't like understand, like I'm not gonna say this. This is the last time I'm gonna say it. But you have to be incompetent. You have to be incompetent at this stage of the game. And given how early it is to be trying to tell black people to get in line, as opposed to telling black people, let's get what we want. Like in the early stages, you get what you want. You make deals. You say this is what we want for our vote. That's what you do early on. You don't tell a bunch of people to get in line this early. That's
right. Now the position I want to. This is going to be a long haul because see, this is the thing. We must be prepared for that because you hear statements and from different ADOS advocates here online, and you hear them say, "No tangibles, no tangibles unless no black agenda. No black agenda, no tangibles, no vote." I think that's extremely powerful. But I'm just saying that it's going to be a long haul. It may not happen this election cycle. This is something that we must.
You're gonna have to give me something. You're gonna have to give me something this election cycle. You're gonna have to give me something real big this election cycle. I'm done with all this. It's not gonna happen this election cycle. It's not gonna happen this election cycle for a long time. I'm done with that. And I don't have no problem with people threatening. Understand tangibles 2020 and all that. That's what I have no problem with that because these politicians need to be threatened. Right. When you look at the life that we're living out here as the people who built this country, I have no problem with you telling these people if you don't do right by us, we're not gonna do right by you. That is a threat, and you need to walk with a carrot and a big stick.
I live in California, like the past caller, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna send you this report on the homeless population. And the percentage of the black population being the highest in compared to other groups. It's a devastating report. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm here for you. Okay. Please send that. Please
send you that article.
Okay.
What's your email? Because
editor at breakingbrown.com, fam. Listen, I'm gonna send the report to editor at breakingbrown.com. But listen, you know what that report means? That report means you got to get off the fence. Like you can't say I'm gonna send you this report with devastating facts, and I'm not trying to criticize the call. It's an instructive moment. You can't tell me, well, I'm gonna send you this report about how horrible everything is for ADOS, and then say we might not get it this election cycle. What that report means is that we gotta get some policies, we gotta get some substance, as opposed to symbolism. And yeah, we need to get it like now. That's what it means. That's what that report is telling you. That report that you're sending me is telling you that we got to get that right now. Don't nobody care what Roland's saying. Roland been around for a long time. He hasn't been getting anything for us, doing anything for like he hasn't been doing anything, just running around in circles, just running. I was in Selma. I was here. I'm at the airport. I'm over here. Don't nobody care, Roland, where you at or what you're doing. Like, you don't understand the urgency and the urgent need for what happened. You dancing around in pillowy pillowcases on your Instagram. Like, you living a good life. You eating good. Like, no. Like, ADOS life. And I know that because of that panel you had with Dyson and the Susan Taylor, whatever, from Essence, where y'all was talking all that do-for-self garbage, and you do charter schools and all this stuff. You don't understand Black America anymore. And so somebody has to take this charge away from you. You never had the charge anyway. You've been falling for a long time. But I'm not trying to get on you. I'm just trying to say, like, understand the political malfeasance. Understand what it means to say, we just got to get on board because the judges right now. We're a long way away from that. Right now, what we have to get from these politicians is commitments. We have to get commitments for our community right now. We can talk later on about how we got to show up and what we need to do based on the exchange. Politics is an exchange. How do you not know that? Politics is an exchange. How we show up and the numbers in which we show up will be based on what you give us to vote for. So what we're saying, Roland, and all the rest of y'all, is that you need to put something on the table right now for us to come out and vote in droves. We're not doing that stuff no more. We just come out and vote for somebody who talks wonderful rhetorically. Obama talked real good, didn't do nothing. What we're saying is that in order for us to come out, we understand that voting is an exchange. And we're telling you very early on what we want and what we need. And there are studies which show what we want and what we need. And we're giving you time to give us that so that we can come out. That's what we're trying to tell you. Anybody who doesn't understand that has a screw loose. I'm going to my last call. 704, I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Yvette?
Pretty good. How about you?
Much respect to what y'all doing out there, ADOS and everything. Hey, I'm trying to figure out, right, how to explain to my daughter, because I'm a 38-year-old man. I've been married 19 years with me and my wife, and our daughter is 21. I'm just trying to explain to the youth how important this is. So to me, I've been trying to say how the Democratic Party basically is the boy who cried wolf. For so many years, been crying wolf. We've been coming to their aid. The Republicans or whoever, they are the wolf. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I've been a data analyst for years, so I understand when it comes to analyzing data. And I'm kind of nervous right now, but what I'm saying is, how do I explain to the youth that this is more important than, just social media? This isn't a fad. This isn't a trend. This is something that's going to happen and it's going to stay for a long time.
What do you mean? What are you trying to explain to her? What's more important than social media?
No. I'm trying to explain to my daughter how when it comes down to this talk, this reparations speak, this is not a fad. This is not understand or.
Man, show her bank account.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you should just show people their bank account, because there was a great article in CNBC that I brought up last week about the trillions of dollars that are being passed down in, like, boomers are passing down to their kids, biggest wealth transfer ever in America. And I think you should show her that, and then show her own bank account and say, what are you going to use to live? I'm not talking about living isn't just about, like, can you pay your rent? Like, how do you compete with these people who not only have the social capital, but they have this money that they pass it down? I don't have that to pass down to you because I'm ADOS. And so that means you don't have it. So how do you compete with these people? Bring up your bank account. Let's go to wherever you bank at. I don't care whether you bank Credit Union, Wells Fargo. Bring it up right now, and I'm going to show you that your bank account is a joke. It's a joke. And, like, when you pass away, like, people who have parents need to understand that when your parents pass away, what's in your bank account and like, even with the stuff they pass down, if they have somebody like you, understand that you could be homeless. Like, you have to be able to see. One of the things that we have to do to be able to think is to project ourselves. Like, what if this happens? What if this happens? What happens 20 years from now? 10 years from now? Who am I competing with? The people who I'm competing with, what do they have? What should I have in my account? Like, go do the math of Darity and show her, like, this should be in your bank account. Based on who you are and what your people contributed. This is what you should have versus what you do have. And this is what you need to compete with those people who are doing those wealth transfers. And America's breaking into two people. A servant class and a financial class that services the rich. The rich, the people who service the rich, and a servant class. And you are going to be in that servant class with these $200 or whatever you got in your account, and it's not enough for you to be American. And that is going to be your life without this. Tell her that.
Okay, so I need to build her into being an entrepreneur, basically, because it is competition.
What money though? With what money though? Like, understand, I'm not telling nobody, like, I have never crapped on black business. What I have always said is that there's no black business without black politics. Because you have a space right now where even white America is like, we can't compete with Amazon. Walmart is like, we can't compete with Amazon. So, like, if you're talking about business, understand that you have this one superstore that's becoming like business for all of America. And you have to have, you basically, in order to do black entrepreneurship, you have to have, like, America create a space for opportunity, a space for us to be here and not be eaten up and taken advantage of, like the black farmers giving those seeds and all that stuff. You have to have us be a protected group. If we're a protected group, then we can do a lot of stuff that we haven't been able to do. But that has to, the government is the only entity that's big enough, strong enough, with enough money to act and enough power to actually do that. So that's what has to happen to make that happen too. It's all the same. It's all in the reparations thing. It's all in there. It's all part of the same bundle of stuff that has to happen for us to finally become American and enjoy the fruits of a country that's like, if you got money, America's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask, so last question, let me just ask you this. Being the fact that my mindset is different from hers, right? She's 21, I'm 38. I think a whole lot different. What book can I recommend her to so that she can understand, just get a basic general knowledge of what's going on, that she can understand, because these kids nowadays, you know, they're part of a social media age, and you know, it's
well, I don't know, fam. Honestly, I don't know if she's gonna be able to concentrate. Social media got people, they ain't got no concentration. They can read one page and they fall off. So I don't know, but honestly, like I didn't think when affirmative action was white did I recommend to the other? I didn't think that was a particularly complicated. It wasn't a complex book. Like if you've read Adolph Reed stuff, that's stuff you gotta have like a cappuccino and just But I didn't think that was a particularly complicated read. Like, you know, tell people to do small bites. Like if you just gotta do 5 pages a day, you just do 5 pages a day, and you just. You do that, and you write down the stuff, and you keep track of like, this is what they got that I didn't get. Like, understand at the end of all this stuff, you have to understand that first of all, you can't do it without somebody making that right. And like, this is horrible that they get to have this and swirl wine and champagne and live a life based on your failure. Like, you have to kind of, in a way, you have to give this stuff some emotion and give it a heartbeat and let them understand that this is injustice and like what that injustice means for your life.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
I appreciate everything you do.
No problem, fam. I appreciate it. Fam! What's going on, ADOS family? We are at the end of the show. We are approaching the 2-hour mark, family. As always, I apologize if I didn't get through to you today. You know, I apologize if I didn't get through to you today on the phone. If I didn't, we will get back. We will be back here on Wednesday, and we'll have another conversation. Please hit that like button. If you want to go to donatebrown.com, go to patreon.com/Wacarnell. You can also get the newsletter. Comes out every Sunday. It's $2 a month. You can do that. You can do that as well. Please hit that like button before you leave. All of that good stuff. And you have to teach your kids. Your kids have to know that, like, they have to feel that poverty. Like, you can't be around just buying them all this stuff. Like, you buy them all this stuff and they running around with all this stuff and they have this expectation. So they don't really know what poverty feels like in their life. No, let them touch that stuff. Don't spoil them kids. Like, let them touch that poverty. We ain't got nothing. We got some bread and some syrup and some, I don't know. Like, figure it out. Like, you gotta let them touch it, and then they touch it, they realize this is awful. Like, I don't want to live this way. Like, this is horrible. Like, let them feel it. Because once you feel it, you realize that this is awful, and I don't want to be here. What do I have to do not to be here? And then, ding, 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 ding. Then I come into play. But you have to feel it. You can't, like, if you're doing everything for your kid or whatever, no, that kid's walking around with all the nice clothes, all the nice technology. They don't want to hear you. They can't hear you. You got to make it to where they can hear you. So anyway, hit that like button, fam. I will see you soon. Please do not forget the book club, March 21st. That's on a Thursday. We do the Monday show, Wednesday show in the book club. And please do not forget that. And fam, listen, we will be back. We're going to keep making the case. I want you all to please just stay on your square. Your square is your square. Nobody gets to take you off your square. Nobody gets to try to convince you that the square ain't your square. We get to right now have an exchange in terms of government, in terms of what we need, what we're owed. We get to do all of that. And that's what we should do. So I want to thank everybody who showed up. We will speak again, talk again, fam. But let's keep the advocacy going. Let's keep the research going. And let's keep setting these people on fire on Twitter, social media, everywhere else. We will talk soon, fam. you.